Hey everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health one topic at a time. So today's video is a response to a very flattering request asking me about my skincare regimen. If you want to hear what I have to say, just keep watching. Yeah, so I got this very nice compliment in the form of a request on the Sandy's DIY Health Advocacy Facebook groups page asking me if I would talk about my skincare. So the first thing I thought was there's no way for me to communicate my entire skincare regimen unless I was going to make like a 3-day video. So taking care of my skin over the years has really not been a day at the beach, believe it or not. So I probably have a lot to share and I've learned a lot. So I decided to start with a video dedicated to just one thing, and that one thing would be what I consider to be my heaviest hitter in my skincare regimen, i.e. sunscreen. Now I am going to talk about the kind of sunscreen I use, what kinds of sunscreens I would try to avoid. I'll talk about price points, and then I'll talk specifically about my favorite product for this purpose, and I'll let you have a look at it. I will even put it on my skin so people can see sort of how it looks going on and how it dries down. Okay, so that being said, I'm also going to state my usual disclaimer, which is that I'm not going to be giving any individual medical advice on this channel, and nothing that I say on this channel should be deemed a substitute for the advice of your own qualified practitioner. And when it comes to something like a sunscreen, everybody has their own prevailing circumstances that they bring to the table. There are opinions all over the board. Some people say that we're really just using too much sunscreen, and that's why we have this rampant vitamin D deficiency in this country, and that's causing all kinds of problems. Other people say, you can get your vitamin D from ingesting it, and so you really should just slather the sunscreen on all over your body and be completely covered. So I did a video a while back on vitamin D, and I'm going to link that video right here. Vitamin D is a very important hormone in your body. So my view on the sunscreen thing is like everything else, it's nuanced. So I am neither completely sunphobic, nor do I feel like I want to expose myself with complete reckless disregard to the sun. If I go out to the pool or I go out to a beach for the day, I'm definitely going to put on sunscreen. And after a certain period of time, I'm definitely going to cover up and seek shelter. And really the benefit risk analysis of how much sunscreen to wear and whether to wear sunscreen is probably beyond the scope of this video. So for the purpose of this video, I'm only talking about my face. And when it comes to my face, I think sunscreen is about the heaviest hitter that you can find in the anti-aging arsenal of products that you can use on your complexion. Now, just to give you a sense of how important for me sunscreen is in my skincare regimen, everything else has pretty much come and gone, although Retin-A has been pretty consistent as well, but sunscreen has been the only thing that has consistently been part of my regimen every single day of my life, with very rare exceptions, since I was 29 years old. I'm coming up on 56 next month. I'm going to have a birthday. Now, there are many kinds of sunscreens you can use on your face, and it just becomes overwhelming, almost paralyzed when you look at all the choices that are out there. Well, first of all, the sunscreens break down into two categories. One is the physical sunscreens, and that would be the titanium dioxide and the zinc oxide, and those provide just a physical barrier to the sun. The other category would be the chemical sunscreens, and those are actually absorbed into the skin. Now, it used to be a concern among a very small minority whether the chemical sunscreens are absorbed into the skin and whether there's any real systemic uptake. But there's now a not so distant drumbeat coming that indicates that those chemical sunscreens are absorbed in the skin, and yes, there is evidence of systemic uptake. Now, that doesn't mean I never ever use them, and by the way, some are worse than others, but when it comes to my face, something that I'm going to put on liberally and every single day, I've decided a long time ago that I was going to limit it to physical sunscreens, so the titanium dioxide and the zinc oxide. Now, those are better for sensitive skin, and I do happen to have sensitive skin, but that really wasn't my reason for getting there. My reason for arriving at that decision at the time really did have to do with my concerns about some systemic uptake and whether there was any hormonal dysregulation, whatever. Realistically, I think it's going to be a long time before that's all settled. Now, there are some reputable brands that do use a mix. Now, one I can think of is a drugstore brand and pretty regularly recommended by dermatologists, and that is Cerave. I like that brand. I like their products. I think at their price point, the quality they deliver is quite good. The difference between their AM and their PM moisturizers is that the AM one contains a sunscreen. That is a mix of chemical and physical sunscreens. Now, the chemical sunscreens that they use avoid the really bad ones, and that's the avobenzone. I try to stay away from that one. There are some that are particularly irritating, and by the way, it's the chemical sunscreens that burn so much when you get them in your eye, or if you've been wearing the sunscreen and then you get your eyes wet and something drips in there, that's the chemical sunscreen. The physical sunscreens will not do that. That's a little bit of a tangent, but suffice it to say that there are times when I will use the Cerave product, the AM moisturizer, with the mixture of sunscreens, not on my face, but on another part of my body if I know that I'm going to be exposed for some period of time and I want some protection. I found it almost impossible to come up with a barrier sunscreen that's suitable for anything but the face and the whole body. First of all, they're thick, they're not that emollient. If you buy the kind that really are emollient, it would get cost prohibitive really to put that on your whole body. So that's another story and maybe for another video. Let me go on to what I've been using on my face for many years now. So there's a company by the name of Elta Md, and it used to be only available in the offices of plastic surgeons, dermatologists, maybe other doctors sold it, but you really could only find this in doctors' offices. And I had an opportunity to use a sample of it that my dermatologist had at the time, and I really loved it. But I was so happy to find a few years ago that Amazon became an authorized retailer of the Elta Md line. Now, I was a little skeptical at first, and I did check with Elta Md, and yes, Amazon is an authorized retailer. And let me just have a brief sidebar about authorized retailers. I'm not saying that every single thing you buy on Amazon or anywhere else has to be purchased from an authorized retailer. That's kind of up to you where your comfort zone is. For me, something of this caliber and this quality and this price point where I'm going to be putting it on my face, something I'm going to ingest, supplements, things like that. To me, that's important that I don't get it from a third-party seller. I only get it from an authorized retailer or shipped and sold by Amazon itself. This particular product is called Elta Md Uv Physical Broad Spectrum SPF 41. I know it sounds kind of random. I don't know where they get the 41. Usually it's 35, 45, or 50. Would I have liked it better if it was 45 or 50? Yes, although the difference between 40 and 45, 50 is pretty small when it comes to the percentage of blockage that you're going to get from sun's rays. And there's so many things that I really like about this product that I would have to give up if I went to that tiniest bit more SPF. So it is lightly tinted, and I am going to talk about the tint in just a moment because that's pretty important. Chemical-free active ingredients, oil-free with antioxidants, transparent zinc oxide, pretty much, and UVA, UVB protection. That's because the physical sunscreens do offer UVA and UVB. It says water resistant 40 minutes. I haven't really tested it for that. Certainly if I were going swimming or something, I would plan to reapply. It is also extra sensitive and for post-procedure skin, and that's something that really sold me on this, not only because of my sensitive skin, but just I think that if this is being marketed and used by dermatologists and plastic surgeons on people who have laser procedures where the skin is just raw for days, if not weeks, and this is safe to put on that, it's got to be very non-irritating, and I have found it to be so. I've never had stinging in my eye. I've just never had any issue with this product at all, and I'm very grateful that I found it. Now, as far as UVA and UVB, it's in general the UVA rays that are aging and the UVB rays that are burning. And it's easy to remember that because the A aging. Now, with this particular product, it is 9% zinc oxide and 7% titanium dioxide. I personally think that's in the plus column. I like to lean more on the zinc than on the titanium. As far as the price point is concerned, one thing I really like about this product is for something that is marketed to dermatologists and plastic surgeons, I think it is priced very reasonably. Now, this is a 3-ounce tube and it retails at $33, so that's $11 an ounce. Now, just for some perspective, something like the drugstore brand I just mentioned, Cerave, which I think is a good product. I don't think it's in the league of Elta Md. That sells for in the neighborhood of $5 to $6 per ounce, depending on where you buy it. And then there are very high-end facial sunscreens, not even necessarily marketed to plastic surgeons and dermatologists, but sold at places like Ulta and sold in fine department stores and marketed as luxury cosmetics. And those are anywhere from $30, $40, even upwards of $50 an ounce. So I feel like at $11 an ounce that this is a really very good buy. It's not the cheapest thing, but I think it is the best value of what's out there. Now we'll get a look at it in just a second on my hand, but I want to talk for a moment about the tint that I mentioned. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the tint in the UV Physical sunscreens in particular, because people are looking for a tint to match their skin. And most of the UV Physical sunscreens that come with a tint only come in maybe one. In this case, there's only one color tint, and maybe they come in two. And I think that kind of turns people off because they think, how am I going to find my skin color if there's only two options? Well, the answer is that it's not meant to match your skin color. It really almost doesn't matter what your skin color is. The tint in this is to get rid of the white cast. So some of you might have put on plain old zinc oxide. Sometimes you see a lifeguard that's got that layer of zinc over their nose so they don't burn, and it's just plain solid white. A&D diaper ointment is another example. You actually could put that on as sunblock if you could stand how thick and greasy it is. It's plain old zinc oxide, but it's very, very white and it leaves a thick cast. So the tints in these kind of products are really not meant to match skin tone. They are meant to cover up that white cast. So the tints are usually kind of either a gray or a tan. And when they're tan, like this one, it gives you the impression that it should be matching your skin. But really, once you rub it in, you'll see it just does not matter what color skin you are. I've recommended this to lots of different people, friends of mine who are all different complexions, and it works on everyone's skin tone that I've seen. I'm going to let you have a look at it. It's pretty thick, although it's not greasy. It is emollient without being too oily. Now, it's thick enough that it's not going to go anywhere when I put it on my hand. That's actually a lot. That would cover probably more than half my face. This 3-ounce tube usually lasts me 4 months, I'd say, at a minimum, maybe closer to 6 sometimes. So I'm going to just spread that in. It's going to take a while to make that work into such a small area like my hand. But I want to let you have a look at the fact that you can see a little bit of sheen there. It almost looks like my hand had been wet. But there's nothing that's sparkly. There's nothing that's greasy. There's nothing that's thick. It's just a really fine, delicate product that you barely feel once it dries down, and it doesn't dry down like a lot of zincs do. A lot of zincs actually leave the area feeling dry. In fact, if you've ever had a condition where something was too dry, you might have had a dermatologist tell you stay away from zinc because it's very drying. That doesn't happen with this. So I'm going to show you my two hands. So this is the one I have the product on. All you can see is that maybe it's seems to obscure, in my case, some of the veins. Like I think that they show up better on this hand now than on this. And to that extent, it does even your skin tone a little bit. If you have something like a very red mark on your skin or anything but subtle, this isn't going to be like cover-up makeup for you. But on any normal day, I can use this alone without wearing foundation. If you want to put foundation over it, which I do, by the way, when I'm on camera, because the camera is so unforgiving, then I do recommend that you just leave this, put this on and go do something else for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, so that it's, I don't want to say dried, but that it's nice and set before you put any foundation on. I've never had a problem putting makeup on over it, never had anything pill or separate. I don't know if that's a function of the kinds of products I use or if this really is just that flexible, but it's behaved really well for me over the years. Okay, so I just waited a couple of minutes so that I could show you. So this is the hand that I put the Elta MD on, and this is the hand that I did not. And the only difference is that there's, I don't want to call it a sheen, but there's just a very nice diffused look to the skin on this one. It doesn't feel moist and it doesn't feel greasy, but it does feel like well-hydrated skin. So this is the product that I'll use on my face every day. I'll plan to do in the future some other videos on some of the other things that I use. My skin has been quite a journey, so I have a pretty involved skincare regimen. One question I can anticipate people are going to ask is, what do I use elsewhere on my body? And I'm also going to link that Cerave AM moisturizer in the description box below. I will use that, like I said, if I need something where I'm going out and I anticipate being pretty exposed. This is something I'll just use on my face. I'm just kind of adverse to using something like this that has a tint in it all over my body. And in general, it's really hard to find a physical only sunscreen that's emollient enough and spreadable enough to put all over the body. So I personally do use the Cerave. I don't use it every day, but when I want to have some area of my body covered up, sometimes my neck and my chest and my arms, whatever, it spreads really nicely. And like I said, it's sort of like perfect is the enemy of good. It does have some chemical sunscreen in it, but it doesn't have the really harsh stuff like the avobenzone, for example. I hope that this was helpful. Let me know if anybody else has any experience with this product. They make a lot of different sunscreens. There's a lot of different needs that this company fills. It's really a niche company for sunscreen, but this is the one that I've settled on as the best bang for my buck. And I hope this was helpful. And until next time, be well. Bye-bye.